Welcome to Bug Busting episode 3. Today we'll be looking at everyone's favourite German crusader, Reinhardt. Reinhardt's kit has been known to be very buggy throughout the years. Today we'll be looking at all of his abilities and using the workshop to figure out why his kit seems to have so many problems. Reinhardt is a brawly tank who uses his giant rocket hammer to swing down enemies. He has a giant shield that can be used to help make space and protect his allies, and he can charge and pin enemies to their doom. Let's talk about Reinhardt's swing. Reinhardt's swinging mechanics work very similarly to how most characters' melees work. His swing will do damage on contact, and will only do damage again after the swing has been completed. This reset occurs when the hammer is at the center of the screen. This is to stop Rein from being able to spin around quickly to damage enemies repeatedly with the same swing. Due to this reset mechanic, the optimal way to do a lot of burst damage is to hit the target at the end of the swing. Then, when the swing returns to the center, it will immediately hit the enemy. This can be followed up by a Firestrike, which finishes off most targets. Another little known fact about Rein's swing is that its hitbox isn't visually accurate. The swing's hitbox is actually a square around the Reinhardt instead of a circle. This has the interesting side effect of the swing being able to reach a farther distance in the corners. So next time a target is slightly out of range, try looking to the side and keep them in your peripheral vision. This may put you just in range to hit the target. When I was investigating Rein's kit, I couldn't really find any prominent bugs with Firestrike. It's interesting to note, however, that Firestrike can be fired through pixel-wide gaps. It seems like that so long as you can see through the hole with your crosshair, the Firestrike can make it through to the other side. Here are some spots that I was able to find, but there are probably hundreds more. Reinhardt's charge seems to be one of the most inconsistent abilities in the game. The way it's intended to behave is that when Reinhardt is within range of the target, he pins them. If he hits a wall, he squishes the target and deals a massive 300 damage. If they are just outside of pin range or outside of the angle, the character should be knocked back. However, charge is broken. Sometimes charges that should have definitely pinned the opponent just don't connect. Other times, it feels like a charge that was miles away sucks you in like a vacuum and pins you. This intrigued me and I wanted to really get to the bottom of why this happened. So, to begin with, I whipped up a workshop code that would spawn an Anabot in front of me in the center of the workshop chamber, exactly 10 meters away, and the Reinhardt looking directly at her. I tried charging at different angles and different distances to figure out where these inconsistencies came from. After some initial testing, I noticed something very interesting. When Rein goes for a charge, he moves his left shoulder in front of him. This leads to his body being moved somewhat to the right slightly. Could it be the reason for a lot of these inconsistencies is that Rein favors one side over the other because of his charge animation? To properly check whether this was the case, I set up a small test. I had Rein charge at set intervals of distance to the right and then to the left of the Anabot. All the while, Rein is only looking and charging forward. The results of this test puzzled me at first, but then it all made sense. Both sides behaved completely the same, and it looked like, in terms of distances, the Rein's charge was 100% consistent and symmetrical. Looking at these tests revealed the real reason behind why charge is so inconsistent. Have a look at this charge. Should this charge pin the target or not? Okay, how about this one? Both of these charges were the same distance away from the center of the target. The issue lies with hitboxes and animation. In reality, the hitbox of Rein more or less stays the same. However, his animation doesn't reflect this at all. His animation has him move to one side and charge with his shoulder forward. All of this while his hitbox doesn't change from his standing position at all. This leads to an unrealistic hitbox that leads to the issues with charge that we see. This is also why it seems as if charge can vacuum you out of the sky. It can actually pin people up to 2 meters off the ground, since that's how big Rein's hitbox is. This is much more apparent when Rein is standing up. Now, this protruding hitbox is also why people seem to get pinned when they are on ledges or payloads close to where Reinhardt's pin should end, like this one. The hitbox for Rein actually juts out in front of him slightly, so when it comes to the end of his charge, the hitbox catches the player on the ledge, sucks them in, and then finishes pinning them. This difference between hitboxes and animation is extremely frustrating, and I hope Blizzard fix this, because it's extremely unclear at times whether charge will pin someone or not, and this can have huge implications in a game. Another thing I tried to do was check whether physics were consistent in the game or not. I applied a knockback to an Anabot every time the Rein got within a specific distance of her. I found a value for this distance, which for me allowed Reinhardt to land pin half of the time and miss pin half of the time. I've left the workshop code for this in the comments, and I highly recommend you try and tell me the results, since I suspect this may just be specific to my ping or packet loss. Now finally, Rein's Earthshatter. This is a very misunderstood ultimate, and given all of the new tech that has been rediscovered recently, it would take an entire video to investigate it all on its own, so that's what I'm going to do. For the next video, we're going to take a deep dive into Earthshatter and investigate its various bugs, tech, and problems. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out a lot and allows me to create more videos like this one. Feel free to give your suggestions in the comments or join the Discord. Link is in the description down below.